Singer Janet Jackson has had her first child at the age of 50. Statement from the pop star's team said Janet had a stress-free, healthy delivery and is resting comfortably. Janet Jackson and husband Wissam Al-Mana are thrilled to welcome their new son, Aisha Al-Mana, into the world. So, is it a good idea to become a mum at 50? Let's discuss this with the writer and filmmaker Naomi Gryn, who gave birth at 51, and Caroline Farrow, columnist at Catholic Universe, who is in our central London studio. Hello to you both. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. Naomi, to you first of all. You've done it. How challenging was it to have a baby over 50?
It has been quite simply the most magical, wonderful thing I've ever done, and so all I can say is it's been great. I don't know if it would have been easier if I'd have been younger, because I didn't try it out. And congratulations to Janet. I mean, what nobody tells a childless woman is just how much fun it is. Everybody tells you about how tired you're going to be and how stressful it is, but it is also a hell of a lot of fun.
Caroline, your view on having a baby over 50, pros and cons?
Well, first of all, I would echo my congratulations to Janet Jackson, and nobody wants to pour cold water upon someone celebrating the birth of a new child. I think my concerns are really to do with her age. So the fact that she is 50 has prompted quite a lot of speculation in terms of how she has managed to conceive. Her statement says that she's had a restful, she's resting after delivery, but there has even been some speculation that she might even have used a surrogate. Now, obviously, we don't know, and we have to believe what her statement says. But the thing is, if she has been blessed enough to conceive naturally, she is in a very, very tiny minority of women. Your chances of conceiving naturally aged 50 are around 1%. So it's likely that she's had to resort to IVF, which is ethically problematic, not least because over the age of 43, you're probably looking at using somebody else's eggs. And of course, you've then got the problem of other embryos that could be frozen in storage. So I think my message would be, if you can conceive naturally at 50, good luck to you, well done. But I wouldn't also be holding Janet Jackson up as an example for other women to follow. And I think if you start on a journey of wanting to conceive in your late 40s, early 50s, you're really setting yourself up for a lot of heartbreak.
Naomi?
Well, I'd like to just take the discussion back a bit. I mean, these days there's an awful lot against a woman having a child much younger in her life. I mean, if she's going to have an education and have a productive working life, find a partner who isn't an idiot and be able to afford a family-size home, she's going to be damn well near 40 before she's got all that together. And then you're up against fertility issues. So thank God there are now some scientific technological interventions to help us along, but one should never take it for granted. I mean, the fact that I did manage to have a baby after 5 attempts at IVF, I still think of as miraculous, and I know, and I don't gloat about it, because I know that there are an awful lot of people out there who try very hard and they don't hit as lucky as we did, but and I also know there are a lot of people out there who don't think that having a child is that significant in their lives. So I am certainly not gloating. I just want to say that, having a healthy baby to healthy parents who is loved and wanted has got to be a good thing for everyone. Okay,
Caroline, that could, in theory, negate some of the arguments that you've tried to put against it.
Not necessarily. I mean, one of the things that Naomi mentioned was, healthy child to healthy parents. Now, she went through 5 sessions of IVF. Now, a lot of women don't have either the money to do that or the actual physical resources to do it. It's an incredibly grueling process to go through.
IVF on the NHS, of course, can't you?
Well, of course, and I think we have to, we need to have a wider conversation about women and fertility. We know that women's fertility levels do begin to drop in your 40s. And I think women need to think about having families earlier and perhaps structure their education and their jobs and their careers, more around the fact that, they may want to have children. At the moment, it seems to be very much, well, you need to, have a stable job and a family home and all these things, which are true. It's ideally, yes, you do want a stable environment in which to bring a baby into, but we also need as women to accept our limitations. I would like to say that every woman has a right to be a 6-foot model and a size 0, but we all have to work with what nature gives us. And biologically, there is a reason why women find it difficult to conceive in their late 40s. Now, I've had a baby in my 20s, in my 30s, and my last baby I had when I was 40. And I there was a real discernible difference in my energy levels, how I felt, how I was able to cope in pregnancies. That the older I got, the harder it was. Now, that's not to say that older parents are worse parents or bad parents. I'm certainly not about stigmatizing older parents, but we have to recognize that Janet Jackson has a lot more money and resources available to her, both in terms of her conception journey and in terms of her childcare options, which aren't available to other women. So I think there needs to be a wider conversation about women, fertility, instead of saying, women need to have a right to have a child at every age and this needs to be funded by the NHS. We actually need to say, okay, how can we think about women and families and how best to support women in these fertility decisions? I certainly wouldn't be encouraging women to go down the route of trying to conceive in their late 40s and early 50s, not least because it's bad for their health, and the risks for the child, again, are much, much greater. A woman...
Let's see what Naomi has to say to that. Do you feel that your health was at risk having a baby later on in life?
I had a very easy time of it. I mean, I think the only thing that happened was my feet swelled, and apparently I started to snore at night. But so I
was 30.
I know that other women do. Exactly. So I did have a really easy time of it. But I would just like to draw your attention to the fact that nothing is being said here about the fact that we don't blink an eye if a guy has a baby in his 50s or even in his 60s. So this is a discussion that's become kind of warped around women, perhaps because we've got these idealized images of a young maiden holding a child to her full breast. But in fact,
I think
women
it's probably more the fact that we're the ones with the
children
ovaries, to be
into
fair,
their 50s.
Naomi.
But women have always had children into their 50s. I mean, my late grandmother, who died, after whom Sadie is named, and who died a couple of years ago at the age of 106,
Wow.
was born to her parents when they were in their late 40s. But at that time, it was common for people to have a fifth or fourth, a large family, and to have maybe their fourth or fifth child in their 50s. The fact is that the statistics only really changed because of the introduction of the pill and because women wanted to work, because women were being freed from being strapped at a much younger time in their lives to their families and their home. So it's very liberating now that you can, in fact, not feel the pressure on you that you have to have a child when you're still basically a child yourself who hasn't really thought about life yet.
Yeah, and Caroline, presumably you're saying that if women can conceive naturally in their 50s, given your faith, then you'd be all in favour of that.
Oh, absolutely, and this is why I'm not about stigmatising older parents, because people can, as Naomi said, conceive in their late 40s and early 50s, but the chances of doing that are very, very slim. And it tends to be, as she said, women who've already, have several children, and there is also evidence out there that women tend to underestimate their fertility in their mid to late 40s. They think, I'm no longer fertile, and then they go out and take various risks and end up with an unplanned pregnancy. So, you have to be very careful about generalising, but when you look at these families where parents have had children in their late 40s and perhaps even into their 50s, they have had other younger children around to help them, and I think we just have to be very careful about assuming that once you're 50 you can still have a baby or you have a right to a baby. And of course there is the issue about if you do go down this IVF route, not only is it going to be physically and financially very draining for you, but also ethically it's problematic, because the likelihood is you are going to have to use somebody else's egg, and that creates a whole Pandora's box of issues, really. So.
Okay. Ladies, sadly, we are out of time. It's good to talk to both of you. Thank you very much indeed. Sorry, I didn't ask you, Naomi, how the baby is.
Sadie is 4 years old now, and she's just fabulous.
Okay. Good to talk to both of you.
She just had her first riding lesson
Oh,
today.
fantastic. That's great news. Thanks a lot, ladies. Thank you very much indeed. Is 50 too old to have a baby? Janet Jackson has had her first baby at that age. Have you got a view on that? Tweet me directly if you would like to at Kay Burley. Still to come this hour here on Sky.